The Minneapolis City Council, that's the city where George Floyd was killed, voted to disband their police force.
Fox 13's Lauren Steinbrecher explores whether Utah's police agencies are looking at changes of their own. She's live at the state capitol tonight. Lauren.
Yeah, Bob and Kelly. So what I'm hearing is the death of George Floyd. The protests that we've seen nearly every night here at the Capitol and downtown really are sparking discussions over some of those policies and whether these agencies need to take a good look at what might need to change.
Each police department in the state has its own set of rules. Policies now in question as protests calling for change continue. Salt Lake City Police explains it's not falling on deaf ears.
Police work is something that is a constantly evolving, learning, and you've got to keep looking at yourself and seeing what can be done better.
Police reform group Campaign Zero has come out with 8 Can't Wait, a list of rules they want departments across the country to implement, including requiring de-escalation, requiring officers to intervene if another officer uses excessive force, and exhausting all alternatives before shooting. While Salt Lake City PD indicates their policies already cover most of those points, doesn't mean what's written in their handbook is set in stone.
As we address each of those policies, do we need to do something different and change our policies to fit best practices?
I think everybody in the country wants to reevaluate what we're doing.
Defense attorney and former prosecutor Greg Skordas, who often represents police, says in addition to making policy changes, what he sees needs to happen.
I think that we need to have more training with police on the sort of the de-escalation of some of the problems that we're seeing, some training on sensitivity with respect to different racial groups and profiling.
It's these kinds of suggestions that agencies like Utah Highway Patrol say are on the table for discussion.
Every law enforcement agency in the state and even across the country are actively engaged in that right now. Where are the gaps? Where are the gaps in policy versus practice? Where are the gaps in law and legislation versus policy? Where are the gaps in training versus policy?
UHP says the Commissioner of Public Safety is meeting with advocacy groups to look at how to close those gaps. Salt Lake City met with leaders in the Black community last week to look at policies and get feedback as well, as departments say they're listening and willing to make changes.
While each department is really up to their own selves as far as policies they create, there are departments that are part of national organizations or companies, including UHP and Salt Lake City Police, that do dictate some of those policies and best practices. Live at the Capitol, Lauren Steinbrecher, Fox 13 News, Utah.